Good evening. Hi, hello. And I have a special guest on my YouTube channel. I am so excited to have the lovely Frances Helena. And Frances Helena is a beauty, a beautifully diverse fashion designer, and she has her own fashion shows. So I'm really looking forward to interviewing Frances today. It's going to be an amazing interview. Hi, Frances. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Mr. Frankie. Thank you. And hi to everybody.
So thank you so much for coming on, Francis. I'm really looking forward to interviewing you today. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm sure you've got a vast full of wisdom and knowledge and creativity that we all want to develop in our lives. So yes,
Uh,
Francis,
I'm just trying
let
to
me
move my
introduce you. And Francis, yes, tell us who you are. Tell us what you do, Francis. Yeah.
so I'm basically, as you said, a fashion designer. And we've kind of only just we've been running the business for about 1 year now. And so we basically just taken on the whole planet, and we've kind of just ended up showcasing back in February for New York Fashion Week. So we got selected. Someone told me to apply, and to be honest, all of this is kind of just I'm thinking everything I do, I'm just thinking as I go and learning as I go kind of thing. But just having that travel experience, because we've lived and traveled all over the world with like my family, my mom and dad, and my cat. We basically, had lived in different places, different countries, seen different cultures. So that's why the brand is called Beautifully Diverse Fashion. And so we're about um, recycling clothes and reusing them because a lot of them get thrown out after the season. So it's basically reducing production waste. And then anything we do, we can like recreate. Like my headband here. This was actually a onesie, and now it's a headband. So yeah, things like that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Francis. And the fact that you have a headband out of a onesie gives me more um it gives me more insight and ideas on what you actually do for beautifully diverse fashion. So thank you so much, Francis, for sharing that. That's amazing. And I think it's really important that we recycle because we always recycle our food, don't we? And we recycle certain furnitures or elements what we store in our house, whether we're hoarders or we like to get rid of our stuff in our house. You know, I always feel there's something to recycle. And I feel that recycling is really important for everybody to do, especially in the world that we're living in today, the 21st century, because there's so many things that we can get rid of, which I feel can be recycled and put into good use. And you actually do that, Francis. So absolutely amazing that you do that, and thank you for sharing your amazing your gift, your quality of recycling clothes and stuff like that. It's absolutely amazing. So, tell us a little bit more about diverse fashion. What countries have you been to then? Name some of the countries what you've been to, and what's your experience of visiting these different countries? Do they all have different experiences, different cultures? And what do you like about visiting different countries? What have you learned from doing that?
I think the biggest thing for me is that I've been really fortunate to be able to just to travel, because a lot of people my age, I'm 32 now. So a lot of people my age haven't had that experience. They haven't set foot out of their cities, let alone their own country. And then if they do, it's mainly just for work or for study. You see a lot of international students coming over, backpackers coming over to Australia or anywhere in the world, really, right? So they're only there for a short period of time. But we have actually lived in countries like Mexico, China, Malaysia, Hong Kong. I've basically been a solo traveler since I was like 16. But I've been to Fiji by myself. I did a volunteer program there with Better Abroad, where we stayed with a host family in the village. So it's a remote area. And there's like a group of us. I think we were the first group of the season that year. So there must have been at least 15 or 20 of us. And so we went there, we stayed in the village for a week. And then the second week, you go island hopping, just, tourist stuff and the things like that. But in the village, we sand down the school, we repaint it, we put water tanks in, things that the community need. And so basically, the program, which doesn't exist anymore because the founders have passed away now, but basically, it was basically a way for us to learn about other cultures and to learn about what's needed in their community. Because a lot of people, they go volunteering and they're like, oh, we're helping the community, but you actually need to find out what they really need rather than just putting in what you think they need. And this organization, what they used to do was that they would actually go to the country. So they used to do Ecuador, South Africa, and Laos. And so, and each program has a different activity. So in Laos, they would go to the elephant conservation. I think in South Africa, they did rehabilitation with animals. And then I think in Ecuador, they did things, creating playgrounds at, local schools. So it's things like that, just to help, the community and also to give back. So it was also a great way to really learn about who the people are and what they do. So, and then, I lived in New Zealand for a couple of years by myself. And for me, that was a little bit of a tough time because my parents got separated, and I'm technically, I grew up as an only child, but my father has children from a previous marriage, and one of them's already passed away last year from cancer. He was living in England, and then the other two still live in Australia, but they're all in their 50s, all three of them. And so, growing up, it was just me and my mom and my dad, and we had pets. And, when we lived in all these places, I should say back then, there were like phone apps weren't available. Phones were just coming out. All the modern smartphones were just coming out. So, my dad, he, would always teach me how to, actually talk to people, because some of these places we lived in, they don't have foreign people at all. Like when we lived in China, in the middle of China, it's called a place called Lanzhou, and I'm probably saying it wrong because there's a tone sound to it. So every time I say it to a Chinese person, they look at me funny. But it's famous for noodles. And so this whole area, they've never seen a brown person. My dad's actually Caucasian. They never saw a Caucasian person at all. So they would come up to us, and they were just amazing people. But they were like a peach kind of color, like really fair skin, but not like super fair. But it was just, and I'd never seen anybody like look like that. So we were all kind of just looking at each other, but they come up to you and, they just touch you, and, you kind of just look at them and you touch them, like not in an inappropriate way, but just because, a lot of them, because the area is, it's a cold place. So the area, a lot of the people have hair on their skin, and I don't have hair on my skin. And I remember when I went to Australia and I started going to school there, kids at school to me, that the girls, they would say, "Oh, do you shave your arms?" I'm like, "No." It was just things that people didn't know. And I said, "Why are you hairy?" Things like that you just, as kids, you don't really understand, and you don't really know, you're still trying to figure it all out. But just things like that. But even communication skills, it was a big thing of how we grew up because people didn't speak English as a first language. A lot of people I grew up with spoke up to 4 or 5 languages. And English was probably the last language they spoke. My mom speaks up to 4 dialects. So, and then English is her last dialect. But, you would find ways to communicate. Like sometimes you would just point, or in the Philippines, because my mom is from the Philippines, we have a lip thing. So everybody knows that Filipino people do that. They just point where their lips. So they be like, look, and they just do that. So things like that. But in China, there weren't any signs in English. So we were at the KFC. So you just point, they just have pictures of like, some drumsticks or, mashed potato or whatever it is. So that was the kind of ways you communicate with people. And, back then it was also, you had to read. It wasn't like you just click on your phone and there's an app and you Google it, it wasn't available at that time. You had to get the map and pull over while you were in the car and figure out where you're going before you get there, you know? So it was things like that that I think have really shaped me to be become, you know, especially with the brand that we do, it's really about embracing other cultures. We have people who are from the Ukraine, Russia, people who are Muslim, LGBT. We have a range from 13 to 64. We have people who are single mothers, you know, because in fashion, there's a little bit of a stigma about mothers being in fashion. You know, people like, oh, they're just a mother, you know, but you know, all these people, regardless if they're a mother or not, you know, they still relate to our audience in some way. Like we've had people who have lost, one of our photographers lost his son last year to a car accident. We've had people who have lost, you know, their parents, whatever it may be, but we have like a whole range. And that's what we're really trying to showcase out there is beautifully diverse fashion. So
That's incredible. I mean, wow, what a rich life you have, Francis. You talked about all the countries you lived in, like Hong Kong, China, Mexico. You visited these countries. That's right, isn't it, Francis? And you probably lived in some of these countries. So you see, to me, you have a real rich background of traveling and experiencing different countries and different cultures and different ways of life. I mean, I used to do import and export. And one of the reasons why I want to do import and export was because I wanted to understand different countries and different ways of life and the richness of different, the way people live, the richness of their lives, and getting to know how different cultures and different people work. And I feel, to me, Francis, you just get more broad-minded, don't you? Get more open-minded to the world when you start to see different countries and get to experience different countries. Your mind's fully open and you can learn so much, and it really just makes you a more broad-minded, creative and a knowledgeable person. That you can understand different cultures, and then I like what you said about it's about giving people what they want, and sometimes not feeling you can give people what they need. And I know that myself as a life coach and a mentor and a coach, that it's always about what people want and what you can give to them people, what value or what can you give to them people. Like if it's a course like me or a mentor and a coaching course, it's about what the people want and can I deliver what they want. That's really important, and you actually touched on that. So, thank you so much for what you shared with us, Francis. And you talked about our different diversity of people, from Caucasian, from whether it's black or it's Indian, all different types of gender of people, which is really important. I feel that the world we're living in is made up of so many different types of people, isn't it, Francis? And so many different characteristics and charismas. And you talked about how you recycle, clothes, and how you seem to come across to me as somebody who's very, very creative, a lot of creativity. So basically, all these countries that you visited, is there a country what stands out for you, or country what you really like, or you really love, or you like to visit, or do you like to visit quite a few of these different countries? What are the differences with these countries, and is it one what you really like to go back to and you think, oh, I love this country, or you have a real connection to in your heart or in your life?
Well, we lived in Malaysia for about 5 years. And so a lot of my friends, you know, are Muslim. And, you know, when we started creating this brand, it was really to say that, you know, there's good and bad everywhere. Like I know we see a lot of things about terrorism and things like that. But my friend, she used to study in Australia with me. So she's from Ghana. And she flew from Ghana to New York Fashion Week back in February. And she was also actually in a domestic violence situation. And so basically, what happened was because of what we had been trying to do or aiming to achieve to showcase that, you know, there's beauty in different cultures and different people and religions, you know, genders, all that sort of thing. So she wanted to come on board. And so this actually helped her regain her I don't know if the right word is dignity, but I guess regain her self-confidence in who she is as a person, because we actually saved her from from that situation. And so we're hoping to actually migrate her out of Ghana to the US or to some other place. So we're still working on that. So that's the other kind of things that we do. So it's more than just about fashion, but it's actually giving people a chance who have never walked runway. So she's from a tiny little village, and she had never walked runway. A lot of third world countries, they don't have an opportunity to do modeling, or they have, because in fashion, from what I've learned, you have comp cards, which are basically little cards with pictures of you of different angles, front, back. It gives you all your height requirements, size, all that sort of stuff. And in third world countries, they don't have that. So we decided we're going to take people on, whether they've been professional models or whether they are beginner models, and we're going to mix the two. And these guys are going to work together and actually teach one another something, just learn something about each other. And with that first show, we had 10 different people from all different backgrounds. I think we had one lady flying from Canada with her husband and her two kids. They were Filipino. We had one girl, she just graduated college. She's adopted from Russia. We had Puerto Rican, Cuban, Ghana, African, Caribbean, you name it. We had people from Europe, so it was really, and all these, they had never met each other, but we had been consistently on Zoom for the couple of months before the show, so people, we try to get them to engage rather than, in the fashion industry, it's a lot of, telling other people what to do, do this, do that. But the one thing that I've learned is that it doesn't actually get you anywhere, right? Because you're standing there telling people, do this, do that, and you can do that, but there's no outcome. So we just let them, even like the clothing, like for the second show we did in Philadelphia, which if people aren't familiar with, Philadelphia is it's what is it? It's south. Yeah, so it's south of the East Coast. But so we allowed our models to choose from the collection that we had, and we let them style it. So whether they had accessories, earrings, belts, whatever, so we let them have fun, because a lot of the time in the fashion industry, we find that people they don't get a choice. So we wanted to make it fun because they're all volunteers. And so that's the kind of way we really evolved in that sense, because it's about letting people choose what they want to do and how they want to do it. Of course, I'm still the captain of the ship and everything, and got to make sure it's all organized, but I also consult them and see, do you want to do this? Like, do you want to wear it? Like, if it doesn't make you comfortable, then there's no point wearing it, So that's why we had one of the girls, she's LGBTQ, but she, in a lot of requirements for fashion, they don't allow tattoos, but she has tattoos, and so we actually we had her wear a sleeveless shirt, and she was showing her tattoos, so it was that kind of thing where we put, mothers that in fashion, but it was really to say that, no matter where you come from, everybody can relate to one another, because some of these people, they're mothers, they go to college, whatever it is, and so it was that kind of thing. So after that first show, everybody just kind of became friends. They all keep in touch with each other. Like I do keep in touch with everybody, but I'm just, it's sometimes super busy trying to get everything together, but I hear all the stories from this person and that person about how other people are doing and what's happening. So it's really that kind of connection. And, the time zones we had, I think we had at least 6 different time zones to talk to all the, different people for the first show. So, it was really just trying to find ways of trying to communicate and figure it all out. But I think the good thing about, traveling and how we created it is that, there's no right or wrong answer. So if you point right, I'm going to be pointing a different way, you know? So it's things like that that everybody is allowed to contribute to this brand. It's not just me saying, oh, here we go, this is what we're going to do. So, you know, I think it's worked that well. And, you know, now we've been asked for all over the world. We just got asked for Germany the other day. We're back in New York Fashion Week in a couple of weeks. Then we're doing London. We've been asked for Ireland, India, Jamaica. Been asked for the Super Bowl, which is American football, which is on the
Wow.
West Coast. You know, so there's a whole list. We've kind of just, I don't know, kind of taken off, and everybody kind of follows us. So we're just hoping eventually we can get the funding to, you know, support everybody and things like that. So yeah.
How many people? Because it sounds amazing what you're doing, Francis, and it feels like you've. I mean, I know I love networking, the importance of networking, and especially when you're networking with different people from different countries. It's so rich, isn't it? You learn so much from each other. So your shows, Francis, you seem to do a lot of shows and you seem to be really professional at what you do, and I'm sure you are. How many people are involved then in a fashion in your fashion shows? Is there a lot of people involved? Do you have behind the scenes certain people who do certain tasks and other people who do certain other tasks? Are people assigned to different projects of how a fashion show comes together? Would you say that?
Um, Well, at the moment, it's a one-person ship right now, so it's just me doing everything. But we do have a graphic designer. But because we basically have been invited, so all the shows we have been asked to do is invitation only. So they find us half the time. I don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? Like I'm just coming from the other side of the world, which is super remote. You know, that's why we're called the land down under for a reason, right? That's pretty much Australia. But you know, so I met this graphic designer. So we haven't met in person. So him and his wife had been talking. They're from Dominica in the Caribbean. So he had done a few of our posters and things like that. But then, you know, we have hosts, you know, that organize the fashion show, like the whole production and stuff. So sometimes they have their own, you know, graphic designers and things like that. So, but we try to make sure we put our graphic designer in there or try to get him some work in other parts of the world from who we know. But so far, each fashion show we've done, the last two had about 10 different models. And then, you know, but it's pretty much I'm sort of like recruiting the models. I'm just thinking of the designs at the same time, all that sort of thing. So eventually we are looking to, I'd love to expand and give other people different tasks because sometimes I'm like, I can't remember what I'm doing. Like, what task do I need to do? You know, because it's a lot for one person to do. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that's where we're at the moment. So
It's incredible. So, Francis, I think you do absolutely an amazing job. You seem to me, you've got a lot of skills, and you're what's the word? You can multitask, and you're very versatile. Would you say that, Francis? You're a multitasker. You're very versatile at what you do. What you need to be, actually, is that right? And flexible. Yeah.
oh yeah, well, I think, you know, with my dad, he was always one of those people that was like, challenge yourself to do something, you know, something different all the time. That way it helps your brain and
Exactly.
helps your mind and things like that. And I'll be honest, I did not know how to sew at all. So a friend of mine, she's from Chile, and she had taught me how to make simple things like hair scrunchies or bags just from you know, clothing. So if you didn't like your shirt, I could take it and you know, and change it into something else. So she basically had taught me some skills just, you know, just to sew, because she would actually do that back in her home country and actually make money on the side while she was at college, you know, things like that. So, you know, over time, and to be fairly fair, I was like, I think daunting about sewing. Like I was like, oh, what if the stitches is not going to be right? What if this isn't going to be right? But then someone said to me, you know what? It's just practice. Just, you know, just try it. Just, you know, you'll keep finding ways, you'll keep adding in different styles. So, you know, I would actually look on YouTube and, you know, they've got instructions there. So I would actually follow the instructions. And, you know, I think maybe in the last year, I've learned how to create bags. I've learned how to create little purses and things like that, or even these, like I learned how to create them just by watching YouTube. So with that sort of thing, but I'm always willing to learn, from other people on how to sew and how to do stuff. So that's how I ended up becoming actually like sewing and things like that. But the recyclable part was also because I didn't have a lot of cash, in fashion. Like if you see anything from like um whether it's Gucci or Prada, whatever clothes they design, right? They actually have their own fabric. They've, had it made and everything like that. And that's all costly, right? So I didn't have a lot of that money. And so that's why we took on the whole recycling thing and just made it our own. So
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And you talked about some big names there, Gucci, was it? Yes, it Prada, Gucci, yeah. You talked about Gucci, you talked about some big names there, recycling and stuff. And it feels like me, you're really creative with what you actually do. And I think that's really important to be creative, because when you're creative, you tend to you tend to be a bit more open-minded and have this ability to get, to influence people, being creative. And I think it's really important to have that creative mindset, that creative attitude. So really learn so much about what you do um, with your diverse fashion. I think it's absolutely amazing, Francis, what you do. Is there anything else that you do besides fashion and diverse fashion that you'd like to talk about? What else do you do? What else is this your passion? Actually, this fashion shows what you do, or is there anything else what supports what you do with the fashion show? Because I think it's really important. Me, I work with young people, I work with youth. How do you feel with the fashion industry and the fashion world? When we're talking about young people, do you feel young people are really connected to diverse fashion and to fashion in general? And how is it important that we really encourage our young people to, like you say, take on a challenge, dare to do something different, like you do, not knowing actually sometimes what it is that you're doing, but having the courage to take that first step and think, right, I'll learn as I'm going along. That's how sometimes I learn myself. I'll learn as I'm going along, and it's always about taking that first step to learn. Do you see a lot of young people and a lot of youth attached to fashion and detached to fashion shows? What's your experience of that, Francis?
I think so I've also worked in daycare for about 10 years. I did basically babies up to before and after school care, teens and everything like that. So, and I think the biggest thing I find, and unfortunately, with this technology that's evolving so fast. It's been a bad thing and a good thing. It's been a thing where a lot of young people now they see people, celebrities or whatever. And I'm not knocking some of my friends are celebrities and stuff, but some of them, I think with young people, they're like, oh, I want to be like that, but they're not prepared to put the work in. Like I have no money. Like honestly, I've been staying at my friend's house nearly 2 weeks now, but things like this. So this was actually jeans. I don't know if they can see that from here, but this was jeans. And so what you see on this pattern, that used to be a shirt. So I cut it up and I got a hot glue gun and I just like stuck it there. So it's basically like that's basically the back of the jeans and everything. But I cut them. But I think the hardest thing about social media now with young people is that it doesn't teach them anything because they spend half the time scrolling, looking at this. Oh, I want to be like that. I want to be like this. But to get to like the top, I've even had a lot of designers or people come to me. They said, "Oh, I've been in the industry 15 years or 6 years. How did you get to the top so fast?" And I'm like, well, I don't know. And to be honest, I don't know. We just put it out there. Somebody took a bite, and now it's only been 1 year. Actually, it's only been 7 months. So we did the first show February, the second show 2 weeks later. Now we were supposed to do Tennessee in May, but we couldn't go. But we've been lucky enough to have a disability brand in Australia sponsor us. They're called Sebagosaurus. So they sponsor all our designer fees. And then yeah, we've got Fashion Week again in a couple of weeks, and then we're doing London after that. So and we've been asked for all these other places, but it's all kind of costly. So we're kind of evolving as we go. But I think, the big challenge for young people is that now they just don't have, not all of them, but some people just don't have that family home. We now see a lot of single families, so they got to go to work. So who's there with the kids? Or we see, grandparents looking after the kids and things like that. But I think the biggest thing, that would be great if, when you do make it to the top, is to actually teach people how to do it, because in the fashion industry, we're
Exactly.
very competitive people. And I say to people, look, I don't actually compete. I'm from Australia, and in Australia, we're just not taught like that to compete. But having been in America, even for 6 weeks or just having these experiences, I've learned people are competitive because that's the only way they know how to get to the top, is to actually be better than somebody else. But what we're doing with our brand is to say to people, you are all equal, regardless of your age, regardless of color. You are able to do anything you want. So all of the people we've had, their lives have changed completely. Like all the feedback I've gotten so far, we've had one guy, he'd never walked around a runway. He's been on LA Billboard twice for Fashion Week. He's now an act. He's been previously was an actor, but he's now, been doing acting. He just went to a party last night with Tiffany Haddish and who else was there? Some of the big people, Cardi B, all those people, and that's just in the span of like the last 7 months. But he's putting in the work, so he's putting in the work to put himself out there. Then we have one lady, she's a single mom. She just published a book. Her and I are on the same book platform, but she's written about what it means to be a single mother and what it takes. But she runs 2 businesses. So, we're trying to show young people that, because in my feed content, I also put what people do, and, not just about, it's about fashion, but it's like saying, okay, this person is a mother, but they're also a business person. So you can be, even if you're a single mother, you can still do this, and we're even trying to tell a lot of young people, like, it's good. Yeah, you're looking at what you want to be when you grow up, but how are you going to get there? And what are you going to do? So, we're basically trying to encourage young people. I think our youngest is 13. So we get the parents
Incredible.
involved as well. So, we get the parents involved and ask the parents' opinion. So it's not just about, because legal age in the States is 21, whereas in Australia it's 18. So, we get the parents involved and ask their opinions, suggestions, things like that. And even ask the young people, like, do you want to wear this? What do you want to do? But we allow them to, basically anybody on the team, to express themselves, whether the photographer, the graphic designer, everybody has the input. And that's how we've kind of created it. But I think that's the hardest thing about today. It's just so technologically advanced, but these kids are really good at what they do with technology, but they just don't have the skills that I had when I was younger, in terms of, we didn't have all this, the technology was just coming out. So, but we've still learned how to do things like change a tire, or, just simple things, learning how to cook, just stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a difficult thing. But I think the good thing now is that there's groups that can actually help young people. They have after school activities, or there's actual camps that you can go to, and we teach kids how to get skills, so things like that. I think they're still trying to figure it out or work on it, because I know we are when we recruit younger people. So
Really important points for what you brought up, Francis. I think it's really great that what you do, and it's right about kids. It feels to me that a lot of the youth now, I don't know how you feel about technology in the world that we live in. It's like they're trying to take everything away from them. and they want everything to do everything for them, and it's like they're going to end up brain dead. But I understand exactly what you mean. For me, it's always about, like you said, trying to be the best person that you can be and getting yourself out there. And would you agree as well, Fred? It's always the first step, isn't it? The first step is always a crucial step. If you can make that first step, just let everything else pan out. It's about learning then. It's about making mistakes. It's about trial and error. It's about not being too hard on yourself, because we've all got to learn. We've all got to grow. But it's right, Francis, about you going out there and being like, you want to probably be the best diverse fashion designer. You want to be the best diverse fashion recycler. So you're doing your best to be the best in your chosen field. And to feel like youth actually need to do that. So that's what I teach youth as a mentor and a coach, to get them in the right mindset, to get them motivated to do what it is that they need to do in their lives. And you touched on some really important points here, about the youth, and you know, um, probably they may be too distracted. There's too many distractions around them to do with social media and information technology. I don't know, but I think it's important as well, Francis, that youth, one step at a time, just take the first step, keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing, and the right people will fall into your environment. The right people will be there for you. The right people, you know, will help you along your chosen path, and help you get to where you need to be. But yes, it seems to me, like you said, Francis, everybody wants a shortcut. Nobody wants to put the hard
Yeah,
work in. They either want money for nothing, you know,
yes, yeah,
and just,
definitely. And
live a life of, I don't know, chicks for free, like the song says, I don't know, but people want money for nothing, and, you know, life just to be free for them. But sometimes, if you really want something, I believe you really want something and you make the first step, you're halfway there to achieving it. And you know what you want, you're halfway there to achieving it, Francis. So maybe it's just a visualization board, or maybe the conviction to make a massive statement, a mission statement, to say, I want to be here in 20 years' time. Put it on your vision board. I want to be here in 20 years' time. Take the first step and work towards getting there. And sometimes everything seems to fall into place if you move in the right direction, you speak to the right people, things happen. You know, sometimes you have to trust the process. Is that right, Francis? You've got to have hope, and you'll give a lot of people hope with your recycling of clothes and diversity and working with different people. And what I loved about you as well, Francis, you've done your fashion diversity show and you said you've had no money whatsoever.
oh
And I
yes,
think that's
yeah,
what the key is to success. Take the first step. Don't worry about whether you have money or not. The first step is crucial, because then you're going onto that path of having everything you want in your life, having that money. And I think sometimes, Francis, we have to take the rough with the smooth, and the hardships with the joy and the enlightenment. But I feel as well, it's about, I think entrepreneurs they think more different, don't they? They think about working on themselves, building themselves up, building other people up. Then once we've got our house and our temple in place and it's structured, then we can start thinking about bringing in money and working with other people. So, you can have a business, can't you, Francis, which is just built upon luck, being in the right place at the right time, just built upon luck. But sometimes we might run out of luck. And what happens when the temple
yeah,
comes crashing down? What's plan B? What's plan C?
yeah,
So you're
that's
doing it
right.
right, fans. I think you're really doing it right by starting off, and making that first step, knowing you've not got a lot of money, knowing that one day I'm going to have a lot of money. I'm going to have a lot of people who are going to value what it is that I do, working with poor countries and giving so much to poor countries with your amazing fashion show, your diverse fashion show, and your recycling clothes, what you do. It's an amazing brand and product, and what you're offering people, especially working with poorer countries, which is really important. It's always a poorer countries sometimes which makes the rich countries and the rich people are rich. And we have to remember
Oh
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. And
it's
it's
give and take,
hard,
and
you know.
it's yin and yang,
Yeah.
and it's positive and negative. It's always that, isn't it, Francis? And remembering that, and always giving something back, Francis. Like you give quite a lot to a lot of countries, a lot of other people, and I'm really impressed how you've actually done that on minimum money, on minimum budget. So I like to
Oh,
applaud you there, Francis.
oh, thank you
Absolutely
so much.
amazing
Yeah,
what you actually do. I'm really in awe of you, and yeah, really looking forward to working with you as well. So, Francis, we'll
yeah.
round up. You've told people about what it is that you actually do. Just give us some information on where people can find you if they want to work with you. Are you on social media? Have you got any emails? Have you got any contact details for people? I'll leave that with you, Francis.
Oh yeah, sure. And I should also say that what we've been doing, it's extremely hard to do. So I've even been homeless twice, and I've been homeless in the last 6 weeks. So I was actually supposed to stay with a partner, it didn't work out. So in the last 6 weeks, I hadn't had anywhere to sleep, and I've been in New York City, right? New York City has 8 million people, and within the COVID period of the last 3 years, there's a massive homeless population. So I basically sometimes just been sleepwalking around New York City. I met a lady on the street, and her and
Francis.
I were talking that whole night. Her and I were talking. She was lovely, but she herself um, had been in a fire. Basically, the house had burned down. She was at the shelter down the road, but she took that night to like just spend time with me. That whole night, like till 5 a.m. in the morning. So, it's
Wow.
been things like that, but I've been fortunate enough to find Facebook groups like Host a Sister, which is basically like you do something nice for that person in return. So I've had a few people from there, even the model friend that I've been staying with recently. I've been, I think, in DC now for about 2 weeks, which is Washington, DC, I should say. And then, then I found some other people up in New York who let me stay there, like pet sit, stayed at their house for free. So I've been pretty lucky in that regard. But, I think the hardest thing about it was sometimes we don't have family members who understand what we're doing. It's always going to be the closest people to you. But, I think as a young person, it's hard, right? Because we think, oh yeah, our family are going to support us in what we're doing. That's not the case, but that doesn't matter, right? There's, like you said, there's people you'll meet along the way, people who believe in us, so you just have to keep going. So we're actually competing in another 3 weeks for 10,000 US, a part of the fashion show that we're doing. So it's a competition. There'll be other designers and models basically competing for this. So we're hoping we'll get something. But in
It's
terms of what you
incredible.
said previously, you can find me on it's called Beautifully Diverse Fashion. So you can that's basically it's basically beautiful with a double L with a Y, and then diverse and then fashion. So you'll find us there. Or you can type in Frances Helena. So it's like the country France with an S on the end. And then Helena, which is Helena. And I have a few accounts. Like I've got one for traveling because I'm also a travel writer, a travel blogger. And then I've published a few articles on travel. I'm also got like a modeling page. I used to model when I was like 20, and trying to take it into the States or into the UK. I've got one which is a foundation which is called You Matter. We created it in the pandemic for university students, mainly international students, but we've kept it at both domestic and international students. But at the time, they didn't have anywhere to go because of the pandemic. Everything was shut. So we were cooking for about 11 weeks straight during the semester, and they couldn't interact. So we made it every week. We changed the menu to a new cultural food. So we did meat and vegetarian. And that's how we kind of evolved. So we're still going to work on that page because that's more like university focused. That I'm not really at university anymore. But eventually I'll go back and finish my master's. And then I think there's another page which is on endometriosis, because I had an endometriosis surgery before I came to the US. I was just in massive pain and then had to wait on the waiting list just because of, what happened during COVID. Everybody had to wait. So I had that. And then we're also advocating for that and hearing loss because I'm actually hearing impaired. And that was one of the reasons why I stopped university because they didn't cater to hearing impaired people. So it was things like that. So and I published a couple of books. So yeah, you'll find me on there. Just type in Frances Helena. Um, I think all the accounts are linked to each other. So whichever one you choose to follow, yeah, that'll be great. And so yes.
So wow, I'm really happy to be interviewing my dear friend Frances Helena here. Isn't she rich, eh? She has a lot of richness to her, doesn't she? And I know that she's going to be rich in money very, very soon. But she has a lot of riches, doesn't she? It's not always about money. It's about the richness of your life and what you're doing for other people. Francis knows it's really important that we serve other people. That's the best happiness and the joy that we don't just give our lives and our families, but we give to the world. And the world will give us joy and happiness back. Remember the journey of Frances. She took that first step with no money whatsoever. She's already proved that it's not always about money. It's about doing things, something that you love and you desire that you want to do with your life. And you want to help as many people as you can solve a problem or maybe solve a solution for their lives. And they'll always remember that, so that will always come back to you. So thank you so much, Frances, for sharing your amazing life, and I really appreciate you. I'm going to be working with you very, very soon. I really like you as a person and like what you do. You're an incredible lady, and you're really making a difference in a lot of people's lives. And that's what we do, artists. We make a difference, don't we, to people's lives. So Frances has told you where you can find her and shows and the social media and all the platforms what she's on. I'll be sharing that information below on this YouTube video. So don't worry, Francis, I'll be promoting everything what you do on this YouTube video. Please, if you like what you heard, hit the Facebook page of Frances Helena, hit the like, subscribe, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about Frances Helena and the fact that we work with youth, and it's really important that we inspire our youth in our countries and around the world. I'm Frankie Kington, known as a wise entrepreneur. Thank you so much for tuning to my YouTube channel. You know where you can find me, Frankie Kington, empowering youth development and life coaching. I'm all on Facebook, social media, Frankie Kington. You can find me there as well. And I look forward to hearing your comments and your feedback. And thank you so much for tuning in to our live YouTube video channel today, interviewing the lovely Frances Helena, who's an amazing lady and entrepreneur who's making so much of a difference to people's lives. And Maya was happy to be here with her today, this evening. So thank you so much, Frances. I really appreciate you. Thank you for spending your time with me. Take care, my dear friend, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. And my warmest wishes to you. Thank you,
Thank
Frances.
you.
Take care, my
Thank you,
dear friend.
everyone.
Bye bye now.
Take care.
Thank you.